Here. Hello, is this on? Hello, hello, there we go. Hello everyone, welcome to Navigating Friendship and Love with Core Values as your guide. Today we're going to be reaching 3 goals together: how core values can benefit your personal development journey, establishing your core values and living in alignment with them, and understanding how core values play a role in building and deepening longer lasting connections. So, how many of you, just a quick raise of hands, have heard of core values in relation to business? Okey-doke. And another quick raise of hands, I won't get you to do this too many times. How many of you have got them established and live in alignment with them from a personal level? A lot fewer hands, and that tends to be the case. We hear core values all the time in business. If you're in the corporate structure, you're probably sick of hearing your boss talk about core values, but I promise it's a lot more fun on a personal level. So what are core values? Core values are your moral compass. They're your guiding principle. They allow you to develop a personal identity. They're essentially a series... They're a series of words that you will choose that you then utilize to live in alignment with them. So you will choose your hobbies based on these values. You will choose your hobbies based on these values. Your friendships will reflect these values, and you will start to understand how to spend your time, how to curate a life that you are happy with and feel fulfilled with, because it is reflective of these personal values. They're also the foundations for your relationships, whether platonic, romantic, and they help you to live in alignment with your long-term goals. They're also going to support you with consistent behaviors. So, they're going to support you with consistent behaviors because you're going to start to understand which behaviors are associated with your core values, and then it's going to allow you to be a lot more consistent over a longer period of time. So achieving your goals is going to be that much easier once you've got your core values established. Why is that important? That's important because without core values, just like any business, if you've not got your core values established, you're going to really struggle with what direction you're going in, what's important to you, how you spend your time, where you put your energy. And once you've got them in place, you can start to, as I said, curate a life that is reflective of these values. That's going to mean, your friendships may change as a reflection of these values. Your future relationships that you're looking for will be reflective of these values. But without that, you might feel, how many of you don't have to raise your hands for this because it's quite a personal question, but feel quite lost in life, not really sure what direction to go in. You feel like maybe you've, whatever age you are, but say if you're about 27 to 32, I find that to be the spot where a lot of my clients will come to me and they'll say, I feel quite lost in life. I'm not sure which direction to go in, and I feel quite unfulfilled. And what happens around that time when you're about 27 to 32, and the spiritualists might say that's your Saturn return, and the realists might say that that is a period of your life where you've been a teenager, you're with your family, with your friends, but then you start to go into adulthood in your 20s, and it's a bit like a dressing room in your 20s. You're trying all of these different things, experiences, people on to figure out what you like. And then as you get into, say, like I said, your 20s, late 20s to early 30s, you start to think, actually, maybe I'm not the same person as I was in my 20s, or I'm a little bit different to that person that I'm, been best friends with for so many years. So that's why you can start to feel lost, because you've spent the majority of your 20s maybe on a career path, looking for fulfillment in something that actually may not be quite so aligned with you. And what happens as well is there's a difference between learned preferences and true values. Now, your learned preferences are things that your parents might tell you that you should value, and maybe not on a conscious level. That is just something that you may hear of, around the dinner table. They're talking, you should go and do this, you should go and do that. Things like my dad used to say to me, why don't you get a job in the bank and then work your way up? And I just thought, I'm sorry for anybody that works in a bank, but I just thought, That is not, I couldn't think of anything worse. And you hear your parents talk about success, go to university, get a job, and what are we exposed to on social media in regards to success? The fast car, the nice lifestyle, the wealth. So then we think, okay, so I've got this job and I'm striving for success. And then you can start to maybe have a quarter-life crisis, midlife crisis, where you start to think, I've been striving for all of these things that actually aren't aligned with me at all. And you'll start to feel a misalignment. Your social circles could be reflective of these learned preferences. But then you've got your true values that will provide a sense of meaning to your life, and we'll go through how you actually establish these. And it's a process that you go on that then allows you to understand yourself on a deeper level, develop emotional intelligence, and then that allows you to then understand people a lot better. So you just find that you have a lot more of an enriched and colourful life as a result of these values, whereas learned preferences, you will be living a life that is what somebody else wants for you, or what society says is good, bad, successful, or whatever it might be. So what you can do if you're establishing your core values, this is just a few values. If you go on Google and type in core values, you're probably going to come across about 40 or 50. And what I'd like you to do when you do this work in your own time is I want you to go through this list. And what you'll find is you'll start to circle words that mean something to you. You don't have to think too deep into it. Just circle the words that you think, okay, love, nurturing, respect, whatever it might be. You're going to circle those, and then you're going to take some time and you're going to go through them each one by one and say, why did I circle this? And whose value is this? And then by doing that process, it will allow you to understand, okay, actually, maybe that's my dad in my ear that's telling me that I should value that. Or maybe society actually tells me that I should value wealth. And just by that, what's going to happen is you're going to develop so much self-awareness of yourself. And the way I explain self-awareness, and I imagine a lot of you are on a personal development journey already, but with self-awareness, it's almost like, I love a metaphor, by the way, and you'll get used to that by the end of the talk, but imagine a fish is in the ocean, and they're just, the ocean's quite vast, but they're just swimming away, and that's their world, the ocean. But then say I come along, and I go and get that fish, and I just pick it up above the water and go, look, there's lots of land out here. That is essentially your subconscious mind and the self-awareness that you will then gain, that you're not tapped into that right now. You just have your conscious world, which is a metaphorical ocean that you're used to, and then the self-awareness is everything that's above there. And with self-awareness, it allows you to understand yourself on a lot deeper level. So by doing anything that's personal development and like a worksheet type practice or ritual, you're just going to gain more self-awareness and learn a lot more about yourself. So once you've done the analysis of figuring out, and you may probably circle, I would say, 15 to 20 on your first go through the core values sheet. And then as you do the tweak and refinement, you might get it down to maybe something like 12 to 15. And then what I want you to do is I want you to define these words on a personal level. Because, for example, wealth, work ethic, career, that may mean something very different to me than it does to you. And the reason that you need to know what that means to you on a personal level is, again, to go that much deeper on your personal journey to figure out, well, what does family mean to me? You might have a bit of a family that's not actually that present in your life. So maybe family's not, it might not be a value from your immediate family, but you may have your own family, children and things like that. So then you have to understand, okay, well, I may not have a perfect family, but I'm going to create one. So you start to understand it and define it on a very personal level. So just a quick insight into some of my values. So I've been doing this work for a long time, so I've been able to refine it a lot more. So that's what I did. I defined all these words and what they mean to me. And you can, let's choose peace, for example. So what does peace mean to me on a personal level? It might mean something very different to you, but to me, it's solitude in the morning. I've got a 4-year-old, and that is very few and far between for me to get that second of solitude. It's not having notifications filling my phone when I wake up at 6 in the morning. It's not having, and this doesn't always happen, but noise and dogs barking and craziness going on outside my house, and that's why I moved out of London 6 months ago. So defining what they mean to you is going to be a lot more useful and helpful for this section of work that you're going to do, where you define these values. Oh, I'm not sure what's happened to the alignment and formatting there, but let's ignore it. So now the next stage of the core values piece is you're going to have your values, whether you have 6, whether you have 10, and you're going to rate them out of importance. Now you might be thinking, Helen, they're all important, that's why I wrote them. But not every value will be 100% 10 out of 10 importance. For example, creativity. I love to be creative. Is it something that I have to do every single day to be happy? No, it's not. And you'll find that with you. So you'll go through this analysis, and if you message me on Instagram, I'll be able to send you an actual worksheet that you can do this for yourself so you don't have to remember all of this. But rate it out of importance. So you can see here I've got wellness, family, knowledge, creativity, peace, and compassion. Rate it out of 10 on importance. And then the next part, which will be quite thought-provoking for you, is alignment. How out of alignment are you with that value? And then you can see here, I'm 9 out of 10 on wellness. That's pretty good. It's up there. Creativity, I'm not quite so in alignment, but it's not super important to me. And you'll go through that process. And the reason I say it's quite thought-provoking is because you might start to realize the areas of your life that you've neglected. And then you'll start to understand, well, why have I neglected those areas of my life? Is that because my work has taken over and I've neglected my family? And it can be quite confronting at times. The next part of the worksheet you will do is day-to-day behaviors. And people find this quite hard when they think about day-to-day behaviors of things like respect. How do you define day-to-day behaviors of respect? Well, that's treating yourself with respect, first and foremost. And you can start to break it down, whatever your value is, as I've done here. You can see that, for example, compassion. How do we break that down on a day-to-day basis? It's non-judgment, it's self-compassion. So for whatever your value is, breaking it down on a day-to-day behavior is going to make it so much more tangible, easy, digestible, and it's going to allow you to establish the micro habits and changes into your days, into your lives that are going to lead you closer to living in alignment with your values. So, why are core values so important for friendships? Well, my mum used to tell me when I was younger, she used to love these one-liners, and I always used to roll my eyes. And one of them was, when you're older, you'll be able to count your real friends on one hand. And as a teenager, I thought, what a loner. How can you only have 5 friends? I've got about 20. And you know what? She's right. She's very right. I'm not going to tell her I said that, and I hope nobody else will. But it's true. As you get older, you start to realize that not everybody is a friend. They are acquaintances. And I think once you start to do the work on core values, you really start to understand the different types of friendships that you have, what quality of those friendships, and then where to channel your energy. And you'll have different friendships based on different periods of your life, different seasons of your life. And if you're going through this self-development journey, you might find that it can be quite isolating as well as you start to grow and evolve out of these friendships. So how do friendships start? Friendships start, we're in the playground and we're friends with the person that stood next to us just because they stood next to us. And I love that about children. My daughter will make friends with absolutely anybody. But as we then start to go into adolescence, we start to develop different friendships. They may deepen. There may be new things like that boy or that girl and causing drama and different things, and friendships just evolve and they move, but they still tend to be quite situational as we're a child and a teen. And then as we go into adulthood, they start to get a bit fewer and far between. We have a lot more responsibilities. We have a lot less time to dedicate towards building and deepening these friendships. And I really love this analysis of kind of subscriptions to our friends. And I don't want this to sound as transactional as it might when it's coming out my mouth, but a subscription and a subscription model for your friends allows you to understand where to spend your time and who gets the daily, weekly, monthly subscription to your life and vice versa to theirs. So the friends that you speak to every single day, the friends that you speak to every single week, every single month, a quarter. And what can happen is we can sometimes spend a lot of our time trying to get the quarterly or the monthly friend into a weekly or a daily friend. And sometimes we just need to accept that maybe that ship sailed and maybe that's a different type of friendship. But I think having those values allows us to really understand and deepen, okay, these are the true friends that I have, and this is where I'll spend my time and my energy. But it's also really good to know what types of friendships you have, so doing that analysis, because it can be lonely as an adult. And I think that's why there's so many communities now, just like Social Wellness Club and Wellnergy, who are doing a great job of bringing more people together to foster those deeper, meaningful connections. So you can find friends, of course, through different communities, different interests, but I find that the true value add-in in friendships is when your values are similar or at least aligned. So the two types of friendships, we've got situational friendships, which, as I said, from childhood, family friends, work friends, gym friends, and lifestyle friends. Now, when I moved to London 6 years ago, I had tons of friends. I was like, oh God, I'm out every night of the weekend. And I thought that was fantastic. And then when, excuse my French, shit hits the fan and you go through a really difficult period of your life, which I did in 2018, you start to realize that those people scarper. And they're there for the fun times. They're there when you've got a table in the club or you're doing something fun. I don't do that anymore. When you've got a table in the club or you're living the high life or you're having loads of fun. But when you're depressed, you need someone to count on, you need to talk and bare your soul with someone who's going to hold that space for you and listen. Those people aren't always there for you. Whereas true friendships, you don't have to be identical in your values. You just have to have some that are shared and have that mutual respect for one another. And that's respect of time, that's respect for you as a person, who you are. You could be completely different people, but as long as you have that respect, that is the foundation. And guess what? Respect is a value. So you can see how these values start to really be the pillars and foundations for friendships. We also need encouragement, honesty and openness, and shared interests. And it's really interesting. There's an author that I absolutely love called Brené Brown, and she talks about the power of authenticity. And when we are open and authentic, that invites other people to do the same, and vice versa. If you have a friend that's gone and shared something about themselves, that then you kind of come away from that and think, they really shared that with me, and I had that deep and meaningful connection with them, and it encourages you to do the same. So true friendships can't be born out of being disingenuine. It has to come from a place of honesty and openness, but you need trust in order to feel comfortable to do that. So again, these are all values: trust, respect, and they are the foundation of platonic and romantic relationships. So some signs that you're outgrowing your friendships, and you can do this analysis yourself, and again, it can be a confronting one, and like I said, self-development can be really, really lonely at times as well. But signs that you're outgrowing your friendships: self-abandonment. What do I mean by that? So I don't know about you, but I've definitely been in a ton of situations where I've started to do well for myself. And I mean that in regards to taking care of myself, met my now husband, so I had a happy relationship, my business is going well, all of these different things. And then you're around these people that you've outgrown, but you don't realize you've outgrown them. And you start to hold things back. And they say, oh, how's your relationship? And you say, yeah, good. Because you don't want them, who's maybe single and gone through a very difficult relationship, to feel bad. And that's called self-abandonment, because you're abandoning your truth. So those could be some signs that you are self-abandoning and outgrowing your friendships. You might have a difference of opinions and values, and that might be very noticeable or not noticeable at all, but that's why we do the analysis. So you can see this when you think how you spend your time. Now, I imagine a lot of you here are into wellness, hence being here today. Now, you may have that friend, like I said earlier, who's at the club, popping bottles, loving life every weekend, and they're saying, come out, why aren't you coming out? You're so boring. But you actually want to wake up at 9 a.m. the next day on the weekend, or 6 a.m., whatever it is, and go to High Rocks or a yoga class or whatever it might be. And they just don't quite get it. They say, oh my God, you're so boring, you've changed. And how many of you have heard that? You've changed. I hate that, because it's like, yeah, I didn't work this hard to stay the same, So you'll start to notice that just the ways that your friends and yourself spend your time. And there's nothing wrong with having that friend that goes to the club. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But understanding that, okay, I may not see that person. Maybe if you've given up alcohol or whatever, you're going to find some of your friendships are quite hard to keep together if you have very different lifestyles and values. So how do you overcome that? If you've got a friend that keeps, they're going out and you are going on your morning walk at 6 a.m. on the weekend and walking your dog, you suggest other things to them. Should we go for a coffee instead of the club? It doesn't have to be at 6 a.m. on a Saturday, of course. It can be, whenever you want, but you start to, because what I don't want people to take this information is that you've all got shit friends and you need to get rid of them all and find new ones. That's not what I'm saying here. People are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. So it's about understanding, okay, I've had friends for absolutely ages that I love, but yeah, they're going out all the time. So can I see them in different ways? So doing that analysis, as well as the quality of your conversations. So I don't know about you, but when you've outgrown someone, the quality of the conversation is that much different than when you're doing the same thing. And I know I keep saying the person in the club, but you've got that to talk about. You've got the gossip to talk about. You've got this person, what happened, and this and that. Whereas when you're working on yourself and you want to talk about what book you just read, what podcast you're listening to, it's a very different type of conversation. So just paying attention to that. And sometimes you have to really, and this is what's hard as well, is paying attention to how you feel before you're seeing that person, whilst you're seeing that person, and after you're seeing that person. Do you make plans with them because you think, oh shit, I've not seen them for ages, and then you think, oh my God, why have I said yes to that thing? Why? I don't want to have to do that. That's probably a sign that you've outgrown your friendships. When you're with them, do you feel a bit anxious? Do you feel a bit nervous about what do I say next, or how they're making you feel? Are they kind of trying to make you engage in things that you've outgrown, whether it's gossip or whatever? And how you're feeling after, when you do that analysis, once you've spent time with them, did I enjoy that? Did I enjoy how that time that I spent with that person, or was it actually quite unfulfilling or stressful? And that's just another sign that you have outgrown that friendship. So, romantic relationships. This one's a bit trickier. So, when it comes to romantic relationships, now by this point, if you followed this PowerPoint, if you will, and you've done the work and you've gone through the core values and you've gone, okay, I know my values, I know their importance, I'm living in alignment with them. How do I find a romantic partner? And if you are somebody who is in a relationship, because I can see some couples together, this isn't, don't worry about this. We're going to find lots of tips and ways that you can grow, to make sure you grow together and have alignment with your values together. So, but this one to start with is about dating and finding romantic love. So when you've got your values, don't, like what I used to do in my 20s, we had this subconscious list in our head that was as if we was going shopping for a family of 16. They must do this, they must have this, they must do this, they must do that, and all of these different things. I'll show you where, if I had a list, this is what it would have been in my 20s. Good looking, good job, wealthy, spends a lot of time with me, Rolex, nice car, knows how to cook, goes to the gym, likes going for dinner. Do you know what happened? I just dated a lot of drug dealers. So not quite the most productive from a dating perspective. But when you go into something with a big long list of all these different things that somebody has to have, just like the woman there on the screen, it doesn't quite work out. So fast forward to, how old was I when I met my husband? So 6 years ago, I did a lot of this work, like I told you, went through a bit of a quarter-life crisis, figured that out, and discovered self-development. And core values wasn't the first thing that I discovered, actually. I was reading all these books. I was watching Gary Vee on repeat. Tony Robbins was in my ear every second of the day. And then I started to realize, actually, that's just noise. It's not actually helpful whatsoever. So I read all the books, every single book you can imagine. I do like Atomic Habits, so I do rate that one. And then core values was something that just kind of organically started to happen. And as I did my certifications in life coaching, I started to learn more and more about it. So I met my husband about 6 months-ish into my self-development journey. You'll see his lovely face there in a minute. And once I had my values established and I'd gone through a bit of an isolation phase, actually, I moved to London and I just could not believe how fun dating was. I thought, oh my God, there's all these people. This is fantastic. And then I just realized that I still was attracting a lot of the same types of people, unfortunately. Less drug dealers, more finance bros. Once I established my core values and worked on my relationship with myself, I was able to then go into these experiences and these dates and find someone, not multiple people, someone that I align with. And you know what's really interesting about this as well? Let's just go back one slide. You'll notice a lot of these, minus the Rolex and the nice car, but are learned preferences. So wealthy, I don't know about you, but like I said earlier, my dad would always go on and me, go and work in a bank, go and do this, go and do that. And it was about wealth and success and accolade. So you can see filtered through here, there's learned preferences, but they're not deepened values. Like spending time with me, that's just some, that's a love language. You want someone to be generous with their time, things like that, but it's not defined as a value. So if you bring it here, you can see that it's a lot more clear. So you know what you are looking for in another person, but you have to do the inner work first so that you can attract that person. And like I said, spiritualists will say that's about manifesting and having someone on your frequency. But if you're not spiritual, that's just knowing, who you want and what you're looking for. If you go for a job interview, okay, well, I want this job to be X, Y, Z. And the same, not that a date is a job interview, but maybe it needs to be treated a bit more like that at times. We start to really understand, okay, I've got these qualities and I feel a lot more confident, because what will happen when you go on a core values establishment or journey, if you will start to become so much more confident and have so much more self-love, because once you've done that analysis and that curation and you can say, I know who I am as a person, I know what I stand for, I know what I'm passionate about, so I'm not just going to waste my time, my energy, my love on somebody that just, is not right for me. So you go on that and you go into these dates with a completely different mindset. You go in there and think, okay, I want to find out more about them, but it's not going into it that, oh God, I hope they like me. I hope they like me. Am I going to dress like this? Will he like this? Will she like this? And going into it with that mindset, it's like a job interview, isn't it? Rather than thinking, will they like me? Will they give me the job? You think, will I actually like this job? So it's very similar. Not that I'm saying, like I said, jobs are not dates, but there are some similarities in the mindset. So don't do this. Don't do this. Don't take your clipboard and your values and say, hey, Helen Derbyshire told me to do my core values, and what are yours? Fill in the box. What's your day-to-day behaviours? So the 2-to-1 technique is a technique that I really, really love. And what that allows you to do is listen. And I think not enough people listen on dates. And I know that sounds really silly, but people sometimes listen for what they want to hear. So maybe their ex is a terrible, terrible person, but maybe they went out all the time and they really didn't like that about them. And then this person doesn't go out on the weekend. You think, oh my God, he or she's the one. And you'll listen to what you want to hear. But the 2-to-1 technique is a technique I really love, where you might say, and this is how you're going to learn about their values without asking the question, what are your core values? It's asking 2 questions before you turn it back on yourself. So you might say to them, what do you like doing at the weekend? And they say, oh, I like going to the gym. You go, oh, okay. How long have you been into the gym? Or words to that effect. And they say, oh, just a few years. Oh, have you always been sporty or fitnessy? And what that allows you to do is it allows you to understand, say your value is wellness. It allows you to understand how passionate they are about wellness, for example. So just by listening and applying that technique, because it is very easy to turn things back on ourselves sometimes. When someone's telling a story and you think, oh, I've been there, I've done that. But if you actually really listen and ask the relevant questions and know which questions to ask, you'll start to learn about their values and them on a deeper level. And because you've gone through the journey of core values yourself, you'll have a lot more emotional intelligence for yourself and for others, that you'll know how to ask these questions and what to find out, and lead with your values. So like I said, if your values is wellness, if it's if it's peace, you start to go, well, this is what I like doing at the weekend, and then that will encourage conversation and you'll be able to learn more about them, rather than getting kind of engrossed. And I know I keep talking about the club, I'm sorry, I don't mind a nightclub, but it's just an easy comparison to make since we're at a wellness event. If they're talking about, me and my mates went out this weekend and we had a really heavy one, and you're like, oh yeah, what's that? And you engage in those kind of conversations, and yeah, they're all right, they're fine, but they're not the conversations that are, I think sometimes those conversations can actually tell you a lot as well, though. If they spend a lot of time talking about the things and you're not quite interested because that's not really your thing, you pretty much know that they're not the right person for you. And just asking the relevant questions, where you can. Like I said, you're going to get so much more emotional intelligence, more self-awareness, and start to learn and understand how to ask certain sets of questions. And the goal is shared values, not identical values. So don't put people in a box. So I know we've done a lot of work and I've told you about the importance of core values, but I don't want for you to go, he needs, again, back to the 3 slides ago where it's this big long list, say he or she has to do this, has to do that, has to go to the gym this many times, has to do this. Don't do that. Shared values is what's important. If you've got a shared value, I think the fundamentals are respect, integrity, and that can be interpreted in any different way. It doesn't have to be identical to yours, and I think that's what's really, really important. So ones who are in a relationship right now, you might start to feel that when you're on a personal development journey, you start to learn a lot more about yourself. You start to realize that sometimes a relationship that you're in is not actually, there's something not quite right about it, but you're not sure what it is. Or you might be in a long-term relationship and you feel that way, and you're not really sure what it is, but by the time you've done this, God, I'm going to be responsible for a lot of breakups, aren't I, for telling you all this. And you'll start to realize, like I said, that there may be differences in values, but that doesn't mean you are doomed. So staying aligned as you grow is all about using your values as the core. And I don't mean to be stereotypical, but I do find women tend to be a little bit more into the journaling and the prompts and the reflection. My husband doesn't do his journaling, I'll tell you that much. And he doesn't, he would tell me his core values, but he's not got a worksheet and knowing his day-to-day behaviors. And that's fine. So I don't want people to start comparing, okay, well, he's not done this analysis, so he's not, it's not right. I think having certain conversations and that open communication where you say, these are the things that are important to me, and this is what I need from you. And I think what comes up as a result of values is needs. You start to understand what you need in life. You start to know where you want to spend your time at the weekend. If you've got a partner that, again, loves going out or loves spending time with their friends, but you actually really value staying in at the weekend, there's going to start being frictions and things like that. And that's not about telling them, stop doing that and you have to do this, or vice versa. It's just about open communication, saying, look, my needs are a bit unmet and I need for you to at least spend X amount of time with me. And you start to understand what you need, and then you can quickly realize then if they're not going to do those things, and that's how you start to realize that you start to grow apart. So the goal here is staying aligned as you grow. I'm not trying to encourage breakups, obviously. And mutual respect and encouragement, just as we spoke about with friendships. I think it's so important to have that mutual respect for whatever it is, whether you are two completely opposite people, two very different people, but as long as you've got the crux of it, that family is your value or respect is your value or whatever it might be for you, that's there, and you have that mutual respect for one another, different goals that you're going after, and you support one another. I think that's how you have to stay aligned as you grow, because life is full of curveballs, and as long as you've got the basis there, the foundations, I think that's how you're going to grow as a couple and stay aligned. So there's a little fable story, I'm sure you've all heard of it, the 3 little pigs. And the 3 little pigs is representative. I told you I like a metaphor. The 3 little pigs is representative of the first pig. I forget it off the top of my head, but the first pig's house is made of sticks. And that little pig is probably quaking in his boots thinking, that wolf is going to blow my stick house down. And that stick house is somebody without their values. And then you've got the middle pig. I think maybe his house is made of stick and a bit of plywood. And that's someone who's got their core values, but they're not in alignment with them, and they're not really respecting these core values. Pretty much knows that the wolf's going to come and blow his house down. But then the third pig has got the cement in, the bricks, the mortars, even got a few pictures on the wall, the blinds are in, everything. That pig knows the wolf is not blowing its house down, and the wolf is a metaphorical person or challenges or things in life that will come along and question your character. They might say something negative about you. You might go through something at work where maybe you got fired, maybe you got made redundant, maybe you got called into a meeting and your performance is being analysed. And what I mean by having these core values is it doesn't shake you to the core, because you can sit there and lie down at night when you're on your own, because it is just you between those 2 ears. It's just you at night on your own, and you can go, you know what, I am a good person. Because I can stand here today and I can say I am a good person because I've got my core values established. I know who I am, I'm confident, and that has allowed me to attract friendships, a husband that I've been with for 6 years, and allows me to be stood on this stage today. Because otherwise, if I wasn't in alignment with, say, Social Wellness Club and Wellnergy, I wouldn't be on the stage today. It wouldn't make sense to me. So core values is our compass for everything. And it's the building blocks for those deep and meaningful connections and romantic relationships. Thank you so much for listening.